federal government sets aside 3% of all contracting dollars for businesses owned by service-disabled veterans. In fiscal year 2023, that added up to over $28 billion, and the majority of disabled veteran entrepreneurs never touched a dime of it.
This connects directly to what we covered in the disability compensation episode. That same service-connected rating that qualifies you for monthly payments also opens the door to federal contracts worth millions. Two benefits, one rating, completely different income streams.
And I know the idea of federal contracting sounds intimidating. Government paperwork, legal jargon, acronyms everywhere. But the certification process is more straightforward than most veterans expect, and the payoff can change your entire business.
The contracting landscape is shifting fast. The federal government is doubling down on small business set-asides, and the agencies that miss their 3% goal face real scrutiny on the annual SBA scorecard. That pressure is creating more opportunities right now than at any point in the last decade.
This is VA Benefits 1.23. Today we are covering SDVOSB, Service-Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business Federal Contracting. By the end of this video, you will know how to get certified, where to find set-aside contracts, and the one contracting tool that lets agencies hand you a contract without any competition at all. Quick intros before we jump in.
Hey, I'm Liam. I came in skeptical, but now I am genuinely fascinated.
Bella here. This one surprised me. I think it will surprise you too.
Core here, I found a way to break this down that just makes sense.
Good to have everyone. Here we go.
Before we get into the how, let us make sure everyone understands what SDVOSB actually means in practice. Because the name sounds like bureaucratic alphabet soup, but the concept behind it is simple and powerful.
SDVOSB stands for Service-Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business. It is a federal designation that tells government agencies your business is owned and controlled by a veteran with a service-connected disability. That designation gives you access to contracts that other businesses cannot compete for.
Think about what that means strategically. In open competition, your small business is bidding against companies with entire departments dedicated to government proposals. With an SDVOSB set aside, the competition shrinks to other certified veteran-owned firms. Smaller pool, better odds.
And for anyone feeling like this is too complicated to be worth it, the federal government is the largest buyer of goods and services on the planet. We are not talking about small contracts. These are IT services, construction, consulting, logistics, healthcare staffing, cybersecurity. Real work. Every federal agency is graded annually on whether they hit that 3% SDVOSB goal. The SBA publishes a public scorecard. When an agency falls short, their contracting officers feel the pressure. That means they are actively looking for certified SDVOSB firms to award work to.
The trend line matters here. Federal spending on SDVOSB contracts has increased every single year for the past 5 years. This is not a shrinking program. The pie is getting bigger.
This is the part that stops most veterans before they even start. They assume the eligibility requirements are impossibly strict or that the paperwork takes years. So let us walk through exactly what you need. There are 2 core requirements. First, you must have a service-connected disability rating from the VA. Any percentage qualifies, even 10%. Second, you must own at least 51% of a small business and control its daily operations.
That control piece connects to something a lot of veterans miss. It is not enough to own 51% on paper. You have to be the person making the management decisions, signing the contracts, and directing the operations. The SBA checks for this specifically.
And here is what changed in 2023 that every veteran business owner needs to know. The certification process moved from the VA to the SBA. Before January 2023, the VA Center for Verification and Evaluation handled everything. Now the SBA runs it under 13 CFR Part 128.
The new SBA process is done entirely online through the certify.sba.gov portal. You submit your documentation digitally, and the SBA reviews ownership, control, and your V.A. disability letter. Processing times vary, but most applications are reviewed within 90 days. 90 days is a real timeline. It is not instant, but it is not the 2-year nightmare some veterans have been told to expect. And once you are certified, the certification lasts for 3 years before you need to recertify.
Stick with me on the next part, because knowing where to actually find these set-aside contracts and how sole source awards work is where the real money is. Getting certified is step 1. Finding the contracts is where your business actually makes money, and the system for finding them is more accessible than most people realize.
The primary tool is sam.gov, the System for Award Management. Every federal contract opportunity is posted there, and you can filter specifically for SDVOSB set-asides. Before you can bid on anything, your business must be registered in SAM, and that registration is free.
Beyond SAM, there are GSA schedules. The General Services Administration maintains pre-negotiated contract vehicles that agencies can order from directly. Getting on a GSA schedule takes effort upfront, but once you are listed, agencies can buy from you without a new competition each time.
And do not overlook subcontracting. Large prime contractors have small business subcontracting goals. The SBA maintains SUBNet, which lists subcontracting opportunities specifically. Subcontracting is how many SDVOSB firms build their past performance before going after primes. Now here is the tool I teased at the beginning: sole source contracts. A contracting officer can award a contract directly to an SDVOSB without any competitive bidding. The threshold is $4.5 million for manufacturing contracts and $9 million for all other contracts.
That is a common misconception. Most veterans hear sole source and think it only applies to tiny contracts. $9 million with no competition, that is not a loophole. That is how the program was designed to work.
One important distinction: VOSB, veteran-owned small business, and SDVOSB are not the same thing. VOSB requires veteran ownership but no disability rating. SDVOSB requires the service-connected disability and gets you access to significantly more set-asides plus sole source authority.
The disability rating is the key that opens the bigger door.
Here is where the program gets really interesting for smaller firms, because the biggest objection I hear from veteran business owners is that their company is too small to handle a $1 million government contract. Joint ventures solve that problem.
The SBA All Small Mentor-Protege program allows a certified SDVOSB to form a joint venture with a larger, more experienced firm. The SDVOSB brings the set-aside eligibility. The mentor brings the capacity, past performance, and infrastructure. Together, they can bid on contracts neither could win alone.
This ties directly to the subcontracting point from the last scene. A lot of mentor-protege relationships start as subcontracting arrangements. You do good work as a sub, the prime notices, and that relationship evolves into a formal joint venture. One leads to the other.
And I want to normalize something here. Asking for a mentor is not a sign of weakness. The program exists because the government recognizes that small businesses need support to scale. Every large defense contractor started somewhere. The joint venture must be structured so the SDVOSB controls the management and administration. The SBA reviews these agreements to make sure the veteran-owned firm is not just a pass-through for the larger company. That is a critical compliance point.
Looking ahead, the mentor-protege model is expanding. The SBA is actively encouraging more of these partnerships, and agencies are giving favorable evaluation scores to joint ventures that demonstrate genuine capability transfer. The firms that build these relationships now are positioning themselves for the next decade of federal spending.
This is the part of the episode that could save your certification.
Because the number one reason SDVOSB firms lose their status is not fraud. It is paperwork mistakes and compliance oversights that were completely avoidable.
The first and most common mistake ties back to what we said about control. Veterans bring on a business partner or hire a manager, and over time that person starts making the major decisions. The SBA reviews this during recertification, and if the veteran is not demonstrably in control, the certification gets pulled.
The second mistake is missing your recertification window. Your SDVOSB certification lasts 3 years. If you do not recertify before it expires, you lose your set-aside eligibility immediately. No grace period.
And the third one breaks my heart because it is so preventable. Veterans who qualify never apply because they think their business is too small or their disability rating is too low. A 10% rating and a one-person consulting firm qualifies. There is no minimum business size and no minimum disability percentage.
If you forget everything else from today, remember this. Your service-connected disability rating is not just a monthly check. It is a business asset worth potentially millions in federal contracts, and the certification to access those contracts is free.
Drop in the comments whether you have a small business or a business idea that could qualify for SDVOSB certification. You might inspire another veteran to take the first step.
Let us lock this in. The federal government reserves 3% of all contracting dollars for service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. In 2023, that was over $28 billion.
You need a service-connected disability rating at any percentage, and at least 51% ownership with daily control of your business. Certification moved to the SBA in 2023 and takes about 90 days through certify.sba.gov.
Find contracts on sam.gov, build past performance through subcontracting, and remember that sole source awards go up to $9 million with no competition. The Mentor-Protege program helps smaller firms punch above their weight class.
And watch out for control violations and missed recertification deadlines. Those are the two fastest ways to lose a status that took 90 days to earn.
This series is covering every VA benefit so nothing gets left on the table. If you know a veteran who runs a business, send them this episode. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one.
Always verify everything at sba.gov, sam.gov, or with a veterans service organization. Quiz time, let's see what you've learned. All right, quiz time, let's find out what stuck. Think through each question carefully before you answer.
Smash that like button and subscribe. It costs nothing and it means everything to keep this series going.
A veteran has a 10% service-connected disability rating and owns a small IT consulting firm. They want to pursue federal set-aside contracts. Are they eligible for SDVOSB certification? The correct answer is B. Yes. Any service-connected disability percentage qualifies, and there is no minimum business size requirement for SDVOSB certification.
A federal contracting officer wants to award a $7 million services contract directly to a certified SDVOSB without competitive bidding. Is this allowed under current sole source rules? The correct answer is C. Yes, sole source awards to SDVOSB firms are allowed up to $9 million for non-manufacturing contracts.
A certified SDVOSB owner hires a non-veteran operations manager who begins making most of the company's strategic decisions. What risk does this create for the firm's certification? The correct answer is B. The firm risks losing its SDVOSB certification because the service-disabled veteran must maintain daily operational control, not just majority ownership.
The thing that connects all of this together is that the SDVOSB program is not charity. It is a government procurement strategy. Federal agencies need goods and services. Veteran-owned businesses provide them. The set-aside just levels the playing field so your small firm can compete against companies 10 times your size.
And what I hope veterans take away from this is that the barrier to entry is lower than they think. A 10% rating, a small business, and a free SBA certification. That is the starting line. You do not need to be a large company. You need to be a certified one.
Looking forward, the federal government's commitment to small business set-asides is only growing. The agencies that fall short on their scorecards are under real pressure to find more SDVOSB firms. The veterans who get certified now are positioning themselves for a decade of expanding opportunity.
If this series is helping you understand benefits you have earned, subscribe. We are covering every major VA program one episode at a time so nothing gets left on the table. Professor Erica, signing off.